legislators. I just want to make a small statement, but before I do that, I just want to make it clear that CSCA stands firmly next to the men and women of blue in Nassau County, the Nassau County Police Department, and we are definitely saying our prayers, and they are deeply in our thoughts for the tragic murder of the 5 police officers in Dallas and those that were injured. And may those that were injured have a speedy recovery. And we thank all the police from Alaska to Maine, because without them we'd have total anarchy. So thank God we are lucky enough to have police officers like we do, and I wish them well. I'm here today to talk about a subject that, for once, is not really a county problem, as far as I'm not here to complain about the county. I'm not here to complain about anyone. I'm here to ask all of our legislators to please help us get the Governor Cuomo, to sign a most important piece of legislation that has passed both houses this year and is on his desk. And what that does is it limits the caseloads for Child Protection Service workers. Okay, this has been going on for years, you know. I mean, I sat here 10 years ago when we had caseloads as high as 50, 45, and many in the high 30s. And it was during that time, a year after we were talking about it, we had that tragedy where 3 children were drowned. And of course, initially, the CPS workers were blamed for that. And after many, many days of hearings, it came out that absolutely they were not responsible for it. However, the national recommendation for the number of caseloads for CPS workers is 12. This law that is on Governor Cuomo's desk right now limits the cases to 15. This is so important because, I mean, I don't understand how the governor could not sign it, quite frankly, but he did veto a similar bill last year. And we're urging him not to veto this year because these are our children. And I mean, I can't imagine anything else more important to all of us than our families and our children. These are children that are too young to realize they're being neglected, too young to realize they're being abused. They don't have the resources that we do. They depend on us to protect them. So someone makes a call to CPS, they have 24 hours to make contact with that child. When you have 35 CPS cases at once, that's almost impossible. Now, here's a side factor that makes this even more common sense. Caseworkers in DSS, especially CPS, are subsidized at 75% of their salary. We actually have, it's the cheapest labor force we can get, because the government, the federal government, subsidizes our caseworkers, our DSS social workers, up to 75%, CPS is 75%. So if the governor passes this law, at some point, and I don't know, I will send you, I thought I had it on me, I will send you the Assembly and Senate numbers. And what we're asking you to do is somehow contact, your voice means a lot. I mean, me calling, yeah, that's the union and they're trying to get more workers. And that's not what this is about. It's not about overtime, it's not about money, it's not about anything else. It's about helping the children and relieving the unbelievable stress on these CPS workers. CPS workers are so stressed out over these number of caseloads that they are like almost panicked at sometimes when they get another case on top of the 30 or so that they have already. We have a case number. I'm sorry, Pat. We do. We have it's Assembly Bill number 10506 and Senate, it's A10506 in the Assembly, and the Senate is S02691. And that's waiting for the governor's signature. So I implore you all, please, if you could support us on this, it would be a great benefit to Nassau County residents, a great benefit to the children, and a great benefit to our CPS workers that are working under ridiculously stressful conditions. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Jerry, sorry. Thank you very much for bringing this to our attention, and you know that you have our support on this. And I just spoke with Rich, and we will be sending a letter advocating and asking them to support this and make sure that we get these caseloads down, because the social workers do a great job, and a lot of times when something goes wrong with any of the cases, the first people they always blame happen to be the social workers. So, and it really is unfair to them, you know, so they are unsung heroes.
Well, I can't thank you enough for that. Your support means a lot. It really does. I think that it can make the difference. Support of this body here can make the difference of him signing it or not.
We need to protect our children. Thanks.
Minority Leader Abrahams, just to echo what Legislator Ford said, Jerry, obviously Legislator Jacobs has been writing down notes, and we were writing down the bill numbers. We will actually join as well as write a letter in support of it. To me, it makes better sense to be able to reduce those workloads and be able to have people more focused on a smaller workload, especially when you're talking about protecting our communities. So from that standpoint, we'll be writing a very similar letter. It'd be great if we could do it all from all 19 of us. I think that would show good. I know it's tough to get everybody to get in sync, but like a better term. But we will be writing us a very similar letter from that standpoint as well. And thank you again for your advocacy on this issue.
Minority Leader Kavan Abrams, I can't thank you enough either, and this would be fantastic if we had a unified, bipartisan letter of support or some kind of being together on this. It would really be something that would make a big impression up in Albany, and I just can't thank you enough. We need it, we really do. I'm literally begging for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Jack McFloyd.
Thank you, members of the legislature, for allowing me to address you again today. As you may know, I've come to each of the legislative sessions since Thanksgiving, appealing to your sensible nature to make some changes to an expenditure that is still on the table to reconstruct Grand Avenue in Baldwin in a manner that many local residents don't approve of. I'd like to point out one thing that I saw in Newsday on Friday, July 1st, where it says, NYFA tells Nassau, make plan now to cut $23 million. The Financial Control Board gives the county 30 days to show how it will trim the deficit. I believe I'm the only person that comes and addresses you to ask you not to spend money instead of asking you to spend money on a pet project. Grand Avenue in Baldwin has been reconstructed about 2 years ago. The roadway is in great condition. We do not want the 2 lanes in each direction changed to only 1 lane in each direction. Many of us feel that it will be a dangerous condition, hampering fire department, EMT, first precinct responders, people having to travel to our closest hospital in a timely manner. And one thing that I would like to point out to you also, in my plea to ask you to consider not funding this project, I've tried to take the high road and not issue any personal attacks on my legislator in the 5th Legislative District, whose pet project this has been all along. I ask her to reconsider and publicly come out and say that this is not a good idea and change her mind. I'd like to bring one other article that appeared in yesterday's Newsday to your attention. It's a criticism from my legislator regarding a $6,000 expenditure by our Controller George Maragos about publishing some brochures that told county residents of free entertainment during the summer. And in the article, it listed the fact that $6,000 is a lot of money to spend on something like this. I'd like to point out that $6,000 is a drop in the bucket compared to the $6 million plus that it will cost to reconstruct Grand Avenue in this fashion. It's not 10 times the expenses of $6,000, not $60,000. It's not 100 times the expense, not $600,000. It's 1,000 times the expense that the legislator has criticized George Maragos for spending, and she intends to champion this expenditure of 1,000 times that amount on a project that many of us don't want. I've tried to keep this not a personal attack against individuals, but an attack against bad policy.
Your time has expired.
And this is bad policy. Thank you for allowing me to address you today.
Thank you, Jack. Legislator Curran.
Mr. McCloy, this might sound odd coming from me, but I really do appreciate that you come month after month to talk about this issue. Even though I profoundly disagree with you. I know that you're here because you want what's best for our town, Baldwin, our hamlet, and I do too. It's just that we have very different opinions of how to get there. But I really do appreciate that you come. I'm surprised that we don't get more residents here talking about real issues. And so I do appreciate that you come. I appreciate that our other co-resident, Mita Meraday, comes all the time as well to speak. I wish we had more people from more places come. But I do just have to say that I do profoundly disagree with you on this.
I appreciate your comment, but again, the reason why I have been coming each legislative session is to provide the other legislators with common sense and informative reasons why this plan is not a good plan and this expenditure is not in the best interest of the local community nor the county. Thank you.
And if I just may say one more thing, I do appreciate that you are always respectful, and I just respectfully disagree with you.
Mayor Bruce Kennedy.
Ladies and gentlemen of the legislature, thank you for letting me be here today. I didn't put my title down, but thank you for recognizing it. I actually came for one reason, and it's grown, so I'll say within the 3 minutes. Number one, I did show up for a rally recently to reopen the 6th precinct, and as a result of that, Legislator DeReggie Whitten got an appointment with me with Commissioner Crumpler. And since then, police presence within the village has increased, arrests have been made, quality of life issues have been addressed, and as a result, living in Seacliff has become a much more pleasant summer. So I would like to thank the legislator and Commissioner Crumpler for their prompt response. Secondarily, this issue regarding the Seacliff sewer project. It is a project that was approved as part of your capital plan. I've been following what's been going on pretty intimately, but from a distance. And this weekend I received a letter to my house from the presiding officer, Norma Gonzalez, I guess giving her a spin on it. I think you all know I'm not the best Republican and I'm not the best Democrat, so I'm trying to be totally nonpartisan here. And I am mayor of a village that is in desperate need of a sewer line. That project's going to cost about $4 million as part of the capital plan. You were all kind enough to say yes to that, so now the question is, how does it get funded? And I have to say, I think it's in everyone's best interest to do something regarding an independent inspector general. I think it would take the heat off of every single member of this body. And given the opportunity, I would love to step back from my position as mayor and let somebody overlook everything I do so no one else is looking over my shoulders. I think it would be a healthy thing to do. But in the meantime, the residents of the village of Seacliff are without a economically intelligent project, an environmentally sensitive project, and I'm pleading with you to find some way of allowing this project to happen in a nonpartisan fashion. Now I have to pull my glasses out. In the 40-year PPU, I've seen that there's $2 million which are presently authorized but unencumbered. And I'm wondering if the legislature would be willing to authorize that $2 million to be utilized for this specific project. That would require no bonding and get this project off the ground. Seacliff is a summer community. We are a beach community, and summertime we are packed with people, vehicles, bicycles, skateboards. So I really can't close the roads in the summertime. If this project is funded soon, I can break ground in October as we did on phase 1, have it done throughout the winter and have it done by next summer. So I'm pleading with you to try to figure out some way to work together that the residents of my community would better from your hard work. And finally, we're okay? God bless you. Resolution 268-16, which is apparently not on today's agenda, is a request from the Glen Cove IDA to offer ridiculous tax breaks for this project known as Garvey's Point, which is the subject of 2 outstanding lawsuits. Currently, it's sitting before Judge Brandine in Supreme Court.
Sir, your time has expired.
Okay, I'll finish up.
You can keep going.
Regarding this project, there are currently 2 lawsuits. The vast majority of residents of Seacliff, Glen Cove, Glen Head, Glenwood Landing, Brookville, they're all opposed to this project. It's a bad idea. It violates SECRA. It violates a contract that's in place with the Village of Seacliff and the City of Glen Cove. And now they're asking all Nassau County taxpayers to subsidize RXR, a $13 billion company. It's a bad idea, and if it ever shows up, I'm asking you all to vote no. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mayor. We just received that item late last week, so we have to do our due diligence, and the plan now is to refer it to committees. The next meeting, which is the 25th, there will be a full and fair hearing. If it passes the committees, it will go before the full legislature, and again, which is August 1st, and again, there'll be a full and complete hearing on the issue, and you're welcome to come back.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have for public comment. There are a number of items that we have discussed with the minority and agreed to pass on a consent basis. These items did go through committees a couple of weeks ago, but let me get that back up. And just ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Deputy Presiding Officer Richard Nicolello. Alternate Deputy Presiding Officer Howard Copel. Legislator Sheila Bino.
Here.
Legislator Carrie Salages. Legislator Denise Ford.
Here.
Legislator Laura Curran.
Present.
Legislator C. William Gaylord III. Legislator Vincent Muscarella. Legislator Ellen Birnbaum.
Here.
Legislator Delia DeRiggi Whitten.
Here.
Legislator James Kennedy.
Here.
Legislator Laura Schaefer.
Here.
Legislator Dennis Dunn.
Here.
Legislator Judith Jacobs.
Here.
Legislator Rosemarie Walker.
Here.
Legislator Donald McKenzie.
Here.
Legislator Stephen Rhodes. Minority Leader Kavan Abrahams.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Pulisic. Again, these are the consent items, so I'm going to be calling a variety of items that have been passed through committees a couple of weeks ago. Item 8, ordinance 83. Item 9, ordinance 84. Item 10, ordinance 85. Item 11, ordinance 86. Item 12, ordinance 87. Item 13, ordinance 88. Item 14, ordinance number 89. Item 15, ordinance 90. Item 16, ordinance number 91. Item 17, ordinance number 92. Item 19, ordinance number 104. Item 20, ordinance number 105. Right, you're correct. Item 19 is resolution number 104. Item 20 is resolution number 105. Item 21 is resolution number 106. Item 22 is resolution number 107. Item 23 is resolution number 108. Item 24 is resolution number 109. Item 25 is resolution number 110. Item 26 is resolution number 111. Item 27 is resolution number 112. Item 29, resolution number 114. Item 30, resolution number 115. And item 31, resolution number 116. Just one correction. Item 29 is not being called at this time. It's not on the consent calendar. Motion by legislator Dunn, second by legislator Ford. This item is before the committee. Any discussion? Public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Those items carry unanimously. Back to the beginning of the calendar, which is item number 1. It's a hearing on a proposed local law. It's a local law to amend the Nassau County Administrative Code in relation to the lease of real property. Moved by legislator Ford, seconded by legislator McKenzie. Items before the committee. No wait.
For the record?
Just a moment. We need a vote to open the hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Item is before the legislature.
For the record, Samantha Getz, Deputy County Attorney, Interim Director of Legislative Affairs, and we have Kevin Walsh to speak on the item.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, legislators. This item, we were at committees back in early June. This is a restructuring of a lease for 60 Charles Lindbergh, where the Department of Social Services and Health and Human Services are housed. This is a restructuring of a lease that will now be a 20-year lease. Excuse me. Yes, I apologize. Before we get to the actual lease restructuring, which I believe is item 18 on your calendar, this is the local law which enables us to enter into this new lease, because this will be a lease in excess of 5 years. This will be a 20-year lease with renewal options. So the law requires us to first pass a local law to enable us to do this, which this local law will be limited to be in effect for this calendar year only. As long as this lease amendment is extended or executed in this year, which is our goal, it will be effective.
Any discussion? Legislator Jacobs.
Yes, I would like to request that Maurice Chalmers, the head of OLBR, come up and discuss, because I know that there are changes to what is before us today versus what had been before us, and I'd like him to discuss the differences and what it means.
Sure.
Thank you.
Maurice Chalmers, budget review. Basically, this item here is the local law just extending, allowing them to enter into lease from over 5 years, a 20-year lease. The major difference in the actual item that will be coming before you is changing the escalation rate. Basically, instead of the rent escalating at a 2.5% increase on an annual basis, it'll be 2.25%, which actually saves the county approximately $4 million. With that change, the aggregate savings is 0.5 million and 5.2 on a net present value basis.
I'm sorry. I just want to make clear on the record that we're talking about the Charles Lindbergh lease for social services.
That is correct.
Okay. And these changes that we're discussing were the ones that were recommended in the original going through committee, am I correct?
Some of these changes actually apply, and like I said, the net result of it is it makes it a saving both on an aggregate basis and net present value basis, which was one of the concerns that my office had on the initial item.
And I just want to say I appreciate very much your input as always. I'm sure we all do, because this is a little bit beyond some of our scopes. And in order to know, to get it in, to have a comfort level, your input is very important.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Legislator Carmen?
You spoke about the difference between the aggregate cost and net present value. Can you please explain what that means?
The aggregate cost basically is the total cost over the 20-year lease versus the net present value, which has a higher weighted average on the initial first 2 to 5 years. So we looked at it from the perspective of the county's exposure over the 20 years, and that change addresses that the cost that we could have been exposed to and makes this a savings.
So the first iteration of this, there was not as much savings for the county.
Yes, we had a concern that on the aggregate basis, it could possibly end up costing us. On this change, we have a savings both on an aggregate basis and net present value basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Minority Leader Abrahams. Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer Nicolello. How are you, Mr. Chalmers? I don't know if this question is for you or for the county attorney, but please stay here because I just want to make sure it's clear. This agreement that we are currently entertaining, the previous agreement would expire on what date?
It would have expired in 2021.
2021.
Yes.
So we're extending beyond 2021 currently.
Correct. It'll be a new lease, 20-year term, effective as of July 1, 2016.
Now, I wouldn't expect the county to go right up until 2021, but do you think it's a bit aggressive to entertain this in 2016?
Based on representation we had from our consultants, we believe now is the right time to do it based on what the market is currently and the rates and the fact that we had an opportunity because the landlord is looking to do a refinance of the building now, so he can offer us, as Maurice said, significant savings. We were able to get a bit of a better savings than we projected when we came to committees the first time. And we will be receiving some pre-rent at the outset and also a lot of money towards improvements, which we do need for our use of the building. $2.885 million that we can use for various improvements in the building for our needs, which we plan for things like security cameras and the like. And if we choose not to use it or don't use all of it, some of it can be applied towards rent.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, the county has demonstrated the ability to do forecasting to determine where the market will be in 2021. And they believe that this agreement will be in line with where they forecast the market to be, and they feel this is a fair deal.
Yes, we do, and we do have comparables of recent transactions in the central area of the county for office space like this, and our terms are much better than recent leases that have been entered into. So we think we're getting a wonderful market opportunity now, and gives us comfort knowing going ahead we're getting the best terms we can and getting guaranteed savings for the county going forward in the next 20 years.
And those comparables have been provided to the legislature?
Yes, they're part of the package.
Thank you. Any other questions for the legislature? Legislator Bynum.
Thank you. So I have a question about the law. And so when will it sunset?
The local law, I believe, is December 31st of this year.
The law, okay. And so Legislator Curran just made mention, or I guess had Mr. Chalmers speak to the revision of, or the renegotiation of this contract. And so am I to understand that a consultant initially put this contract in place, or did they only suggest that we move forward in renegotiating terms and signing a new contract?
I believe what happened was the landlord really had reached out through their agent to us to see, they were interested in renegotiating the deal, and then we engaged a consultant through a competitive process to assist us to look to see if there are other alternatives in space, whether we should do it at these time for all the reasons we've been discussing, whether this was an opportunity for savings we should take advantage of at this point. And looking at the market and, when we project the, we even project there's going to be a lot more demand in the hub area, in this area, in the coming years as this area develops. So we don't think we'll have this opportunity in 2 or 3 years for sure. And if anything, we could end up, if we waited, we could end up with terms that are not as good as we even currently have, which are not ideal.
And so who initially negotiated the terms?
We negotiated it through our consultant with their consultant. We had representation as tenant and they had representation as landlord.
So but there was a potential that we would even lose money on the original negotiated terms if it were not for a second look at this project or the contract that then required a revision where it's now estimated it will come out on top, correct?
Right. I'd say that's correct. We guarantee savings by going through this.
But my concern is that whoever the consultant is was not really, they didn't negotiate favorable terms for us. If it had not been for a second look at this, we would have potentially entered into an agreement that we would have been on the losing end of. And so why are we paying consultants to do?
We had a disagreement on, there's various ways, and I think Maurice could speak to it well, there's various methodologies about how you project going forward, what savings would be in terms of what taxes would be, what other costs of like cleaning would be. And I think we all agreed that what we were doing was going to save regardless. It's a matter of a conservative look at what may happen in the future with things like taxes, if they will increase or not, cleaning, what will those expenses do, what will the market rents do. And we were able, based on getting some feedback from this independent office, to go to the landlord and say, look, can we do a little better? And we ended up being able to get a significant savings.
What I would expect that our consultants do that for us. If we're paying consultants to do that kind of work for us, that they should be coming to us with the best possible deal. And I don't think that we should have to then have to renegotiate terms that they are paid to properly put in place for us. I think they fail, is what I'm saying. Thank you.
Legislator Jacobs.
I just want to add one thing on. I understand exactly what Legislator Bino is talking about, and it is frustrating. However, it is indicative of good government that when things do surface as being questionable as to whether they're the best that we could do, and we have people like yourself, and obviously an independent person like Maurice Chalmers, whose office looks at things for us totally unfettered in how they do it, and have the respect of both sides of the aisle because of the way they do things. And therefore, my hat goes off to that, because without it, I mean, honestly, we would be in the dark. So I understand what Legislator Bino is saying, that the original consultant should have taken all this into consideration. So be it. That, I agree with her. But right now, I have to say that I feel a comfort level knowing that independent budget review is agreeing with the county attorney into this being the way to proceed. So thank you.
Any other discussion among the legislators? Any public comment? Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you.
Legislator Carter. Yes.
Thanks. I would just say that this to me is how the legislature really should work. I think we acted as a real check and a balance here, and I'm very happy about it. It's good for the county.
Alrighty, hearing no other public comment. Did you have something else to say?
Yes, I was just asking, would it be possible for us to call the resolution item as
That's
well
what
now?
our intention is. We'll
Okay, thank you.
close the hearing, we'll vote on this law, and we'll call the resolution item.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion to close the hearing? Moved by Legislator Dunn, seconded by Legislator Rhodes. All in favor of closing the hearing, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, hearing is closed. Item 2, the local law to amend the Nassau County Administrative Code in relation to the lease of real property, moved by Legislator Coppell, seconded by Legislator Schaefer. That item is before us. Any discussion on the local law? Any public comment? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, the local law passes unanimously.
No, actually,
Oh, I'm sorry. All those against?
sorry.
All right, that's 3 against. It makes it, 15 to 3? 14 to 3, okay. All right, item passes 14-3.
I guess we
It's 15-3. Motion passes 15-3. There we go. Now, item 18, which is a resolution authorizing the county executive on behalf of the county of Nassau to execute a second amendment to lease between 60 CLB owner LLC as landlord and the county of Nassau as tenant in connection with the lease of certain premises located at 60 Charles Lindbergh Boulevard in Uniondale. Moved by legislator Dunn, seconded by legislator Kennedy. That item is before us. I think we've covered most of the points earlier on.
Sure she doesn't want that?
All right. Currently we have an amendment in the nature of a substitution.
And then we'll tell her we're going.
So we need a motion to amend. Legislator Muscarella makes that, seconded by legislator Walker. The amendment is before the legislature. Right, but according to the amendment sheet, the lease is being amended in order to correct language identifying the landlord. The amended resolution also reflects the county's negotiation of significant changes in the county's favor in the second amendment to the lease. All right, any discussion on the amendment? Any public comment? All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Aye. Those opposed? Three. Okay, opposed the same, it's 15-3. Item is amended. Now a vote on the amended item. All in favor of the amended item signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, item passes 15.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Several items involving bonding which are not going to be called today. As you can tell, the presiding officer is not with us, so we're going to put these items over until such time she is present with the legislature. These include item 3, which is ordinance number 67, item 5, which is ordinance number 80, item 6, which is ordinance number 81, and item 7, ordinance number 82. At the conclusion of the meeting, we'll be recessing until a later date. So I'm going to be calling item 4, which is ordinance number 79, an ordinance providing for capital expenditure to finance payment of certain judgments or compromise or settle claims against the county of Nassau, authorizing $45 million of bonds of the county of Nassau to finance said expenditure. Moved by legislator Dunn, seconded by legislator Rhodes. That item is before the committee. Ms. Getz.
Hi, we have Bob Savino here to speak on the item.
We had a lengthy discussion in executive session at the last committee meetings, but there was a question with respect to certain emails. I think you've provided us with a document from your office today regarding those emails, correct?
Yes, we have.
Do we have any questions? Sure. I'm sorry, Mr. Savino. Give me 1 second.
It's always just been removed, so somebody.
Yeah. Mr. Savino, I'm sorry. I'm just conferring with counsel because I heard you had mentioned to the deputy presiding officer that the emails that were requested in executive session, you have provided to both sides?
I provided a letter to the presiding officer summarizing the emails, yes.
No, yeah, we were looking for the, I think, I remember having this discussion with.
I have a copy of the exact email if you want.
Yes, if you could provide that to council, I'll have them walk down, we can take a look at that, I appreciate it. Now, I guess the next line of questioning actually talks about, without getting into the case, the next line of question I have is really tied into the actual bond. And just want to make sure I have a clear understanding of what's in the stipulation and what's being enforced today. But just to make sure I understand this correctly, the stipulation with the plaintiffs, the state in regards to the enforcement of the judgment. Make sure I understand this correctly, is there anything in the stipulation which makes that the state contingency on the legislature passing the bond ordinance?
No, the stipulation requires to be submitted to the legislature.
Be submitted?
Yes.
So the judgment is stayed because you've complied with that particular portion, correct?
We would argue that it is. They may argue that under the stipulation it should have been submitted earlier.
Yes.
But our position would be that we've complied with the stipulation by submitting it to the legislature.
Agreed. So short of what the judgment will indicate,
Excuse me?
short of what the appeal will indicate of the on that particular case, even though we are now a year past when they believe we were actually going to take this action, or take the action that you, by submitting this to the legislature, have taken. The thoughts of anything happening before that case actually renders a judgment on the appeal, it wouldn't take place until we actually hear from the court on the actual appeal. What would happen between now and the actual?
It's possible that the plaintiffs could seek to have the stay lifted in district court.
Counsel advises me that you would actually have to have the court. They would have to petition the court to do that.
The court would have to lift it, yes.
And he also confirms that there would have to be motion practice on that as well. Is that your understanding?
They would make a motion to lift the stay, yes.
I got it. So basically, if that steps need to be taken place, then it doesn't appear the county's in any immediate danger.
Well, I can't say the county's not in immediate danger in the event that the legislature doesn't pass this. They may seek to lift the stay, and I can't absolutely predict that we'll be successful in opposition to that. So I can't say there's no danger. There is potential danger.
But it doesn't appear to be. I guess what I'm driving at, it doesn't appear to be imminent.
Well, counsel for the plaintiffs has, in that email that you were given a copy of, has indicated that they may seek to go to court to lift the stay if the county's not in compliance.
I'm sorry, Mr. Semina, I'm trying to read the email that you have as well at the same time, but I thought I heard you say that we are in compliance because
we would argue that we are by submitting it. They may argue that because of the delay, we're not.
But the county attorney, the office of the county attorney believes that we are in compliance by submitting it.
That would be our position.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure they'll have a position as well.
Yeah, their position may be contrary to that, but the stipulation didn't guarantee approval because we could not guarantee approval. It guaranteed submission.
And that makes sense. But I think, I truly believe since this judgment could come down at any particular time. For the steps that would need to go in place to actually to remove the stay, I'm not using the right technical legal terms, to do that, it sounds to me that this process is not imminent to require anything additional at this time from this legislative body.
I'm sorry, can we just take a 1 minute break?
We're going to take a 1 minute break. Alrighty. Did you have something to add?
I just wanted to say that we would urge you to pass it only to take away the possibility that the stay may be lifted, which could result, if it was, potential freezing of county accounts and other enforcement measures. So by your passage, it would obviate any chance that plaintiffs could lift the stay.
I hear what you're saying, Mrs. Semina, but our counsel has advised us that in order for that to happen, it's not something that can happen overnight. And from our perspective, since it cannot happen overnight, we truly believe that a judgment in that time frame will come forward.
Well, I can't guarantee, nor could anyone, when the Second Circuit decision will come down. It could be many months away. I mean, if it was argued in April, we may not get a decision until we don't know when. So there could be many months in which time plaintiff's counsel could make that motion and have to stay lifted.
I see. Okay. I mean, I know you can't speak to the argument in regards to the finances and the litigation fund, but I just want to also just add for the record that I believe there was very extensive questioning in the Finance and the Rules Committee, mainly Finance, I believe, in regards to the use of that fund. I believe there was $45 million in that fund. I think it was also said by the administration that they would not like to utilize that portion or all of it for that fund. We truly believe that you should, because it is a litigation fund, and this clearly looks like it's applicable to that being utilized for that purpose. We could not see a reason why we would not use that fund.
Well, there is a stipulation indicating that the county will put this resolution forward.
Mrs. Semina, I'm sorry. I just want, just for the record, and I don't know if you can answer this, but I thought you had maybe mentioned it in executive session. It's not particular to the case, but could you tell us why we received the stipulation so late?
Why
Bond
we
ordinance, I'm sorry.
received
The bond ordinance, I'm sorry.
the bond ordinance so late?
Yes, we're receiving it now, but this was supposed to be submitted over a year ago.
I can't speak to that. I can only say that it is here now, and we're urging you to act on it.
Terry, could you?
I can't speak to the matter either. I do not know why it is only being submitted now. I would also like to point out to the legislature that under the circumstances of the stipulation, we could not stipulate to the passage of a ordinance. However, the understanding is that it would be in good faith considered when it is submitted. In other words, we cannot bind the legislature's hands, but the understanding and the commitment that was made was that it would be voted up at the time that it came before the legislature. Not that it would just hang fire. In other words, it's a problem when you're dealing with a democratic institution. We cannot bind you. We just hope that you understand the situation as one where, in good faith, it has to go forward. And this, in fact, will protect the county's finances.
That's a good question. What was the bond as a concept of putting money forward, as you've indicated? That was something that discussed with the judge. The judge is aware of this, or the judge?
Yes.
Indicated. Tell me, what was her role? Was she advocating this? Was she saying this is something the county should do?
Well,
if you can,
she saw this as a way to have the judgment stayed since the county was unable to post a bond. And it was a compromise that allowed all the parties to move forward with the appeal while the stay was pending. And she believed that it would be in good faith for the county to indicate that if it lost the appeal, it had the funds available to pay the judgment. And that's why she was willing to go along with this.
Again, my concern is that before the issue was what would happen, that motions could be made and things of that nature. My concern is that the judge was involved in this and might not be happy with the legislature if we fail to take this step.
I think that is a possibility since the judge, I think, believed that the bond would be passed and be available in the event the county loses its appeal.
So again, I want to go back to talk about motion papers. The concept among the lawyers is it takes a long time, there's papers, etc. There's also in federal court, they streamline things. So if the judge is unhappy with this, I think the judge entertains an oral motion. And if I'm planning attorney, I may do it tomorrow. So I think there is a risk here. I don't know how to quantify it, but I think there's a risk here to the county.
That's certainly a factor that the judge may not be happy with the county not living up to what she believes are its obligations.
And if I could just add one more point, please. As far as what the Deputy Presiding Officer is saying, if tomorrow this is brought before Judge Seibert, there is the possibility that she could direct the county to deposit $45 million forthwith into court if bond ordinance is not passed. And also, it's only the bond ordinance. It's not a question of going to market now. It wouldn't actually be borrowing at this time. It's just the ability to do so.
And the stipulation clearly provides that the bond would only be used after a final judgment with no further appeals available.
Let's say that, I'm sorry, Minority Leader Abrams.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer Nicola. Jerry, just in that last statement before I get into my question, our counsel has advised us that the motion would have to be briefed before and brought before the judge before they would actually decide to do that.
Your counsel is much more optimistic than I am. This is a long-standing case, and I could imagine Judge Seibert cutting straight to the chase and directing $45 million to be deposited.
Now, if the judge was concerned or upset about the county with the action that's taken today, I go back to, again, which I wasn't too clear on the answer, on why this is now just being submitted to us a year after the fact. I mean, there's been 12 months that has passed, and if the judge was angry, they could have easily vented their concern by doing any of the actions that you believe they could do after today in the last year. This was supposed to be submitted to us within that time frame.
They have only threatened to do that recently in the last, actually, since about June 10th. So now it seems to be on their radar screen, and they are threatening that if the county does not, in their opinion, live up to its obligations, that they will go back to the court and seek to stay.
And they being the plaintiff. I would be very surprised if Judge Seibert knows the ins and outs of what's going on at this point. But should she find out a situation exists, she would, there is a great possibility that she could act forthwith.
Okay. Legislator Ridgeway.
You know what I think part of the problem is, and this is more of a statement than a question. When this was first brought up, we were told that we were going to need this bond as we started our appeal, just a couple weeks ago, which gave us all the thought that, okay, while we appeal, we're going to have this ready, but it was presented completely as if the appeal had not even begun. And now later, here we find out that not only has it begun, but it sounds like it's finished, right? We're just waiting on the decision, is that correct?
Well, it's not finished. The decision could take months. There's no way to predict when
But
we're
the
going to get a
argument,
decision.
the argument ends, is that complete?
Excuse
Is
me?
the argument end complete?
The arguments, oh yes, it's submitted to the court.
So
It has
the appeal itself is complete, it's just that we're waiting for the decision?
Yeah, but the decision could
Which
take
is
many,
exactly
could
opposite
take
of,
many more months. We have no way to
it
predict.
could take many more months. It's just opposite of how it was stated on the record. It was stated that we were about to start the appeal process. And, it sounds like a nuance, but this is happening sometimes, and I just hope that we're aware of it, because we rely on the testimony of everyone to really know how we can make an informed decision. So it just gives us like a little bit of an unsettling feeling to hear that we're supposed to bond as we proceed to start the appeal process, and then to find out later we've already done the appeal process, we're waiting for the decision. I can just ask one question more, if you don't mind. When the appeal decision is made, it's a stipulation, correct? It comes down, or what comes down from the appeal? Just the order from the judge?
There'll be a decision from the court, from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, yes.
Okay, and just someone who doesn't deal with this daily, I know in some personal injury cases, sometimes they'll just they'll state on that decision, you have X amount of days to decide. Yeah, I mean, usually it's 120 days before, even the stipulation that we have here, it says we have 120 days.
After the judgment's final to actually make the payment.
Right.
But that allows time for the bond to be.
Right, but, 120 days is 6 months, so do you think it's absolutely necessary that before we have the decision that we,
Yes.
I know, but, the bottom line is we still have 120 days from the date that the appeal's decided.
That's to make payment.
Right,
That's to make payment.
right.
But if the bond authorization is not passed, you'll use up part of that time again trying to pass a bond resolution. And then you have to sell the bond.
Well, you know what, I just don't think it's, I don't know if you have wrong, but if we have 120 days from the day the decision comes down, then we know what it is that we have to bond for. This might come in at 10
But that's
months.
not to pass the bond authorization, that's to make payment.
Well, you know what, to have 6 months before we have to make payment,
That's
I
4
think gives
months.
us ample,
That's-
4 months, I apologize. 4 months before we have to make payment. I don't know, I think that this argument to see what the actual appeal is, we might win. Like, why isn't anyone optimistic that we might
Well,
win?
we're kind of talking apples and oranges because the payment issue doesn't resolve the issue of the stay potentially being lifted, which is the current issue that is potentially a problem for the county if the stay was lifted.
If I can interject at this point, this is a stay of the judgment. If the stay is lifted, there's no 120 days involved. It would be an immediate payment, and it would also be whatever is said in the stipulation about 120 days would no longer be relevant. And as I said before, the court could very well, even before there's judgment on the appeal, there's a final decision on the appeal, the lower court, the trial court, can direct the payment of the $45 million on the posting of supersedious bond, which we can't do for the simple reason that we cannot post collateral in order to obtain the supersedious bond. So the only option open to the court is a direction to pay $45 million for it. So it's not a question of waiting for the appeal to be decided. The judgment is out there and is alive if there is no stay of the judgment.
But as of right now, there is a stay.
Yes. But there may not be one tomorrow.
So that we could come up with the possibility that it's either pay $45 million in cash and we will have
passed on the opportunity to cover our obligation just by an authorization without actual law.
Absolutely.
Now, my recollection is different than legislator Reggie Whitten's. I do not recall anyone representing to us that if this was being done at the beginning of the stay. I assumed that myself because I thought that would be when he would come to us for this, but I don't think anyone affirmatively represented that. My recollection actually is that it was clarified in executive session that this was so after the appeals had been argued and waiting for a decision. So, legislator before.
I'll request a record for that, just to clarify it.
You don't want to? Okay. I'll be very brief. I'm over here. I just want to, I'm not a lawyer like Delia, so I just said I'm not a lawyer. Yeah, I just said I'm not a lawyer like you.
Just like you know.
Yeah. Sorry, that's, I'm just comparing myself to you. Okay. But, just listening to all the comments and everything and the concerns up here, the concern of the bonding that we need to do is not because of the Court of Appeals, but because of Judge Siebert and the action she may take if we don't pass this bonding. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I guess, Mrs. Savino, you were the lawyer who's been representing us, so you have been in court with this judge, so you have a better understanding of any action she may take in regard to this?
She has been very difficult at times with regard to the county's positions, and there is a possibility that she will not be particularly happy if this is not passed, and we can't predict what her reaction will be or how she would react to the motion or in order to show cause to lift the stay, but it's very risky.
And so that exposes us to all of a sudden having to come up with $45 million, overnight.
This would take away any risk until the final decision of the Second Circuit.
Right, so we wouldn't really necessarily, we may not get 120 days to come up with money that if we just waited like through the appeals and if they came down with a decision upholding the $45 million judgment, correct?
That's correct.
But no, if we do pass this, and we authorize bonding for $45 million, and all of a sudden the appeals court strikes it down and says, you know what, they're not getting anything, or maybe they're only going to get $10 million or whatever. We would just have to pay the $10 million, or we don't have to pay anything, we don't have to execute the bond, am I correct?
Whatever the final judgment is of the Second Circuit, if it's a lesser amount, if it's nothing, the county's obligation will be just to pay the amount of the judgment plus attorney's fees, plus interest.
Okay, and thank you.
So, thank you. So, just want to clarify something as well, because I think that maybe we're all missing a point here. If we pass the bond today, or pass the authorization, I should say, we don't have to borrow anything. That everybody, I think, understands that. If we don't pass it today, and the judge then lifts the stay, and somehow this $45 million frozen, we've lost the opportunity to just pass the authorization and not actually pass a bond, because to get the money back then at that point, we would actually probably have to pass the bond and actually borrow the money to replace that $45 million. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Legislator Carmen.
Hi, I have a question I think is for Mr. Naughton.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Good, and yourself?
I'm doing well, thanks. So, from what I understand, I feel like I'm always talking about the litigation fund. We have about $45 million available in the litigation fund right now, right?
That amount's approximate, yes.
And this is a $45 million piece of money that we're talking about as well today. Why not use that?
Well, obviously, if we use that $45 million, we would have zero for the rest of the year, and considering it's July 11th, I greatly anticipate we will have other needs this year for the litigation fund. Also, that will tie up our cash, which we did not anticipate. We've already been to market for our cash flow notes, so we do not have the flexibility to just hand out $45 million today.
But then couldn't you come to the legislature if there were other settlements that needed to be taken care of?
Well, clearly, we're having difficulty getting things passed right now, so I would not want to count on that.
That's a fair point. Sometimes you're gonna have to count on it, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I didn't mean to cut off.
That's all right.
But,
I just think that this is actually something that the litigation fund is actually for. I know we're asking to use it for this and use it for that, but if this is for litigation purposes, and this is money in that fund, it just seems so logical to me to use this.
The fund was never intended to pay for large settlements. We had always stated in our budget documents and all our communications with NYCLA that for extraordinary types of judgments we would seek to bond.
And then, I mean, in a way, this money would then be earmarked, may not have to be used eventually, but would be earmarked, and then, I mean, this might sound silly, but in a way we couldn't keep talking about the litigation fund and using it for this and using it for that. It would be earmarked for this.
Well, clearly, I think even when John Kamen was the chairman, he felt that it was very beneficial that the county had money sitting on the side to pay for potential litigation. So I think he would have said to exhaust your money on one large settlement would not be a good practice.
So this would really just be a policy decision at this point, right?
Yes, and I think the best policy is to pass this ordinance. You're not going to market right now. It satisfies the judge and it allows us to move on.
Okay, all right. Thank you for answering the question. And now I have a legal question. Has the judge mentioned anything about what would happen if the legislature does not do this?
No, but that's not
Specifically?
something that the judge would
Okay.
normally,
Okay.
disclose
Right.
to anybody. The judge
Right, that
does
makes
tell
sense.
you what they're thinking of doing.
Okay, thank you.
Legislator Rhodes.
I kind of come from a little bit of a unique perspective of, in a prior life, I was the deputy bureau chief for what was then the Tort and Civil Rights Litigation Unit in the county attorney's office when I first started my legal career, and I practiced in federal court. Just a couple of misconceptions, perhaps, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Judge Seibert is not, as soon as the judgment was issued, the county had the obligation to pay. It was solely within Judge Seibert's discretion to stay the enforcement of the judgment while we exercised our right to appeal up to the circuit court. That permission for the stay was granted as a result of the stipulation.
Correct.
Whether the stipulation specifically said it or not, it sounds as though, from what you're telling us, that it's clear that Judge Seibert wanted us to be able to guarantee that we had the, not immediate, but reasonably immediate access to the funds if in fact we lost our appeal. And that was one of the factors that she considered in her decision to actually grant the stay. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And obviously, the judge has a wide berth of discretion as the one having issued the stay to do what she wants to do if in fact the application is made to vacate the stay based upon the actions of the county legislature today. Is that correct?
Right.
And one of the actions that she could certainly take, and one of the factors that she would look to, is the fact that not that the county legislature didn't consider, but the county legislature actually considered and elected not to give the authority to post the $45 million bond to guarantee the enforcement of the judgment if in fact the stay is lifted or if in fact the Court of Appeals comes down with its decision in the negative.
It's a factor she could consider, certainly.
And if in fact the authority to bond was put in place, there would be no evidence to be submitted in support of an application to lift the stay. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we are, by our actions today in giving the authority to bond, forestalling the possibility that of course the plaintiff can make whatever application they want, but forestalling the evidence in support of any application to lift the stay. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And just another, Mr. Norton, if we could. My understanding is that we actually took the $45 million, is it $45 million, by the way, in the litigation fund?
That's an approximate amount, looking at where we probably are right now.
So essentially, in order to guarantee if we did not bond. In order to guarantee the payment of any potential judgment for this particular case, we would effectively exhaust the ability to use the litigation fund for any of the other cases that the county attorney's office, either with or without the consent of the county legislature, would settle throughout the course of the remaining months of the year. Is that accurate? Right. The idea behind the litigation fund is that we don't want to have to go through the process of bonding each and every settlement that the county reaches into, I would assume. Is that correct?
That is correct, and also I think Mike has pretty much indicated that for other settlements, they probably would not allow us to bond.
Okay. And the reality too is that obviously the settlements that come to the county legislature are the settlements of $100,000 or in excess, correct?
Correct.
So if the county attorney decides that there is a property damage claim involving a privately owned vehicle for $2,500 that the county attorney's office resolves without the consent of the county legislature, because it's not required to obtain the consent, we would actually wind up having to bond for a $2,500 settlement, theoretically, in order to pay it, right?
And theoretically, but there's no way we would ever be allowed to do that.
No, of course not. Even if they gave you the authority to borrow, you would have to gather together all of these small settlements to make it to something that's worth bonding.
Correct.
So effectively, you could settle something today, and by the time we accumulate enough bonding, we might not be able to pay that until next year.
Right, and I think also through negotiations, when you have cash on hand, you're in a much stronger position.
Of course, because in theory, when you resolve a claim, you have a responsibility to pay that claim within 21 days, correct? But we always ask for a waiver of CPLR 5003A, but we don't always receive that. But the idea behind the CPLR is that you're supposed to make payment within 21 days on these. The existence of the litigation fund allows us to be able to comply with the CPLR in large measure and actually make those immediate payments on some of these smaller dollar value settlements or judgments that we may actually receive. So by binding the $45 million in the litigation fund as a commitment to pay potentially this, we're preventing us from being able to resolve and being able to effectively pay any other settlements or judgments that may come down the line, which I think certainly would severely limit the county and severely limit the county attorney's office and its ability to negotiate.
Right, and also should just clarify for the record, you know, we recently went to Morphin and earned some premium which will be used to pay down debt. That savings has not been moved into the litigation fund right now, so the $45 million potentially will be there. It's not there as we speak.
Thank you.
I just want to follow up, and then we have Legislator Birnbaum. Just to follow up on Legislator Rhodes' comments, that the NIC is not going to let us borrow for judgments unless it's an extraordinary case, correct?
I am 100% confident in making that statement.
So then if you take the litigation fund off the table and it's gone, any judgments such as, or settlements such as we have, I think, a couple million on the calendar today, has to come out of cash.
Correct.
Okay, that kind of, obviously, it's a very tight budget, so if you're going to be coming up with cash in large measure, you're probably going to have to be looking at discretionary cuts.
Exactly.
Legislator Birnbaum.
Okay, I understand that we wouldn't want to deplete the litigation fund, but is it at all possible to take part from that fund? Because we don't even know what our costs will be till the end of the year, and perhaps it'll be a lot less than that, and then bond for less than the $45 million.
I would say to you, give me the ability to have a bond ordinance, and then we can make that educated decision on how much to actually borrow for. Right now, I cannot say how much I would take from litigation, because I have to talk to the county attorney about what other cases are out there, but there's a potential that we would borrow less, but we still need that initial authority to bond for $45 million.
Well, unfortunately, the amount for this ordinance is 45.
But again, if I may, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we are not today voting on the bonding of $45 million. We are voting on the authority to bond $45 million.
Any other discussion?
Well, is it possible to use money out of something other than the litigation fund, perhaps from operating?
I think everyone has been well aware of NYPA's demands on us, looking for other cuts or other contingencies to offset the risk that they have identified, which they've called another $23 million. So the short answer is no.
right, any other discussion? Thank you. Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Aye. So the item fails by the vote of 11 to 7. Legislator Coppell makes a motion to reconsider. Second by Legislator Muscarella. All in favor of reconsidering this item signify by saying aye.
It has to be made from someone.
See, now I always thought that myself, but it's actually the majority.
So we can stay here all day.
Well, that's not our intention. I mean, let me just clarify what our intention is. Our intention is, obviously this has been voted down. Well, we'd like to have the flexibility, depending on what actually happens as a result of this vote, to quickly, take action if we can. So that's all we're doing here. Then we're going to table it, yeah. So we have a motion to reconsider by Legislator Coppell, seconded by Legislator Muscarella. All in favor of reconsidering signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
I'm sorry.
Okay. So what's the, is it? No. I mean, how many votes of the minority do we have to reconsider? Oh, okay. All right. So it passes unanimously. The motion to reconsider. Legislator Coppell makes a motion to table, seconded by Legislator McKenzie. All in favor of the motion to table signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The item is tabled. Those are last item on our calendar for today is item 29, resolution 114, a resolution authorizing transfer of appropriations herefore made within the budget for the year 2016, moved by Legislator Gaylord, seconded by Legislator Schaefer. This item is before us. Is there any discussion? Item 29, it's the transfer of appropriations.
Yes, I just have
Yes.
How are you? Yes, how are you?
Oh, wait, Sick management budget?
Yes, hi, how
How
are
are
you?
you?
If I'm looking at this correctly, resolution 114-2016, the board transfer for $110,000 from the county attorney's office to the Department of Investigation, salary, wages, and fees, correct?
Correct.
And if I understand this also correctly, this is for the Commissioner of Investigation, which we call Inspector General, but it's both the same.
Call it whatever you want, but that's what the
Absolutely.
transfer is for.
You and I speak the same language. That's actually what I believe too as well. That being said, to whom does the Investigations Commissioners report to?
I really can't answer that, legislator. I don't know the answer to that. I know the money movement, that's all I know about who she's reporting into. So,
Is there someone from the county attorney's office that can?
Gerald Pablos, back for the record.
How are you, Joe?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Great.
I like the official name, Gerald. We always say Jerry, but that's all right.
That's what my mom gave me, I mean, that's what I use.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it. You're right. The names that parents give. But anyway, I digress. To whom does if you know it, to whom does the Investigations Commissioner report to?
Pursuant to the charter, the Commissioner of Investigations reports to the county executive.
To the county executive. So basically, can the Investigations Commissioner can be terminated by the county executive with or without cause?
I do not know what the terms of the charter are as far as rationale for termination of the Commissioner of Investigation. Whatever it says in the charter is in the charter.
Is it possible you can take that question back and find out from someone who possibly does? Or is anyone here that possibly does?
I will take any question that you put to me back to the county attorney.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, in our reading of the charter, does the Investigations Commissioner have a set term of office?
No. However, the Commissioner of Investigation cannot extend beyond the term of the county executive that appoints that individual. That's public office as well.
Unless we amend the charter.
Maybe. I'm a lawyer, what do you want? Maybe.
Nothing further at this moment.
All right, any other questions? Let's Jake.
Jerry, I have a very simple question. The idea of creating a, let me just see what you're calling it here. Hold on, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused myself yet. A Department of Investigations, all right? For it to really be an independently functioning department, such as OLBR. OLBR has a contract that they function under. They give a nonpartisan viewpoint on any items such as contracts that are coming before us. And because of that, they have the utmost respect, I'm sure, of the county executive as well as the legislature. What's disturbing here is that if this particular person is now going to report to just the county executive, and the county executive is we're not sure about this answer. What is it, with or without cause that this person can be terminated? And where does the legislature fit into this then? How do we know what his initial report is about a contract that could avoid the contract problems we've been having? That's what everything is all about right now. I mean, I don't expect you to answer, but I expect you to try to understand why we have such chagrin over this whole concept. It doesn't seem to me that it answers that key word, independent, for the legislature to have a sense of comfort in what this person is suggesting. If he's only reporting to, and I'm very good friends with the county executive, but if he's only reporting to the county executive, whose administration is the one who develops the contracts, where are we in this process?
Well, actually, in the process right now, this is purely a board transfer for the sake of funding the salary of the individual.
That I know.
And the issue that you're bringing up are not actually involved with this. This person has been hired and is entitled to a salary.
That I agree with. That's, yeah, it is.
I have one quick point before I go back to this, that just the point that I want to make is that the Inspector General of New York State reports to the Governor, the Inspector General of the City of New York reports to the Mayor of New York, so this is the way it's done. And then there's a point that Howard has made very effectively. The chance that the Commissioner of Investigation who was undertaking the investigation would be fired by a county executive is nil. Whistleblower law, as well as the fact that you have the United States Attorney, District Attorney, and Attorney General's office to worry about if you're going to be worrying about a Commissioner of Investigations. But Legislator Kavon Abrahams.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer Nicolello. And I don't want to get into a big back and forth because I got to tell you, the Deputy Presiding Officer is running a great meeting today, so we're going to get out of here before 4 o'clock. So from that standpoint, but I just want to, again, because I've seen a lot of the back and forth in regards to the minority's position in regards to the Inspector General. I think we're talking the same thing, and this is my plea to you on this floor, is that we are talking the same thing. You call it Commissioner of Investigations as per the charter, we call it Inspector General. We are not talking about creating a separate, independent, additional office. We are talking about utilizing the office that the county executive has hired, an individual that has, we truly believe, a great pedigree for that position. We're not talking about adding bureaucracy. We're not talking about adding additional taxpayer expense. We're talking about giving this person a contract, which to me, the beauty of it, if you give them a contract and you amend the charter, you give them a term that is 1 year or 2 years beyond what the county executive's term is. What that does is you always guarantee that individual will be there in a term when the county executive did not appoint her, they will still be there. And that ensures at least 2 years, to me, if you want the level of independence that I truly believe the county needs, to me, that is the essence of what we're asking for, is that we're able to have, say, for example, if the current county executive did not run again, and you had a term in place that went beyond their term, the next county executive is beholden to that county executive based off that contract. It doesn't give the ability of the next county executive to fire this particular individual without that contract being in place. So I truly believe it's not a Democrat or Republican issue, it's an issue of just smart governance, and I truly believe that it makes sense and fair governance, and I truly believe that we should be looking to try to do it. And that's been our passion. Like I said before, it does not add one penny, and it doesn't add one level of bureaucracy. It's basically giving the individual we're willing to accept that's currently in that role the independence of a contract. And I can not understand for the life of me why we do not want to do that. But thank you.
If I may?
That's it, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to point out to the minority leader that you're not really accomplishing what you think you're accomplishing. First of all, let's consider whether there's even, I'm going to advise that the state authority is required to even create a position because this was a contract, but the lawyers can figure that one out. But more importantly, a contract would provide for the payment of X number of dollars a year to this person, which is rather puny in the context of what this county spends every year. So if a county executive decided coming in that this person was not doing a great job and had the temerity to actually go ahead and want to fire this person, it's not a lot of money. It's not going to prevent that from happening. Not going to stop it at all. And as I said before, I think that a county executive who was under investigation by the commissioner for doing something improper, who went ahead nonetheless and tried to fire this person, is going to provoke the same kind of reaction that Nixon did when he fired the special prosecutor who was going after him. You're going to have the same exact kind of reaction. It'll just be the beginning of the end. And as I said last time, I think he'd rather set himself on fire before doing that if he wanted to remain politically viable at all. The stance of trying to create a new position when the current position is one which already essentially gives the county virtually every single thing that it needs in terms of function. To me, this just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, I'm going to end it there. Is all right with everyone? Have you, is that okay? Yeah. All right, no further discussion. Any public comment on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Item carries unanimously. We have, we have a... All right, we're going to put this meeting of the legislature in recess. We have two speakers who would like to speak at this time, so I'm going to call them up. Danny?
My name is Dan Dobroff. I'm here on behalf of ITAC, where we keep fighting to get transgender civil rights passed in Nassau County and New York State. I'm here because I'm concerned about Nassau County's lack of doing anything in regards to this issue. Not everyone, but the presiding officer never put this up for a vote in the past six years. Joanne Borden's been here pretty much for every meeting since sometime in 2010, and nothing's been done yet. Unfortunately, this is an issue where people who are transgender are facing violence across the country. It's just something that we need to have done so all our citizens are equal. People in Nassau County who are transgender can be discriminated against in terms of employment, housing, and service in a restaurant, and that's something that's very troubling at this day and age in 2016 that this could happen, and it's also troubling that the county legislator doesn't seem to have any plan for when this is gonna go up for a vote. That's really troubling to me, and I'm hoping this could happen soon.
Legislator Jacobs.
Dan, I appreciate you being here, as you always are. The only thing I can tell you is that this is going back 6 years. And every 2 years, we keep putting in the same bill, all right? The bottom line is perseverance. I'm getting tired of saying it, but it really is the bottom line. And the bottom line is that maybe at some point a light bulb will go off as the rest of the country falls in line with what should be. And I see it happening, you see it happening every single week, every month. So eventually, we're gonna look awfully foolish, especially since we're surrounded by counties that have all done it.
Exactly.
And individual municipalities that have done it.
Right.
So all I'm saying to you is, I can't even continue the discussion with you because we've had this discussion. I appreciate you very much, but there's nothing new I could add to it.
I understand.
Except to keep persevering and to assume that someday someone will see the light go off.
Exactly, because there's been no negatives in any of these places where this has
I
happened.
understand that.
Not at all. As you know, I mean, some other people may not get that.
I understand it, but it's, I never use the word hopeless because I always feel that things are hopeful.
I agree, maybe one day something will happen. I mean, not that anything negative should happen, but one day something will happen, someone will say we have to do this.
I hope it happens.
Maybe, perhaps it will.
Perhaps it will, that's a better attitude, you see. Seeing the glass half full is the way to go.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Douglas, Mayor, NAACP.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the legislature. I said good afternoon. Good afternoon. Oh, that's much better. By the way, where's the majority lady here today? I hope she's well. Miss Gonzalez, I haven't seen her. Is she well?
She's ailing today.
Okay, give her my best. I'm here today to speak on behalf, I live in Freeport. I didn't give my name, but I know everyone knows my name up there, Douglas Mears, NAACP, Freeport, New York. And I want to give legislator Steve Rose kudos for answering my phone call the day after I called him in reference to Palmetto Park, which Steve came and asked me when could I meet him at Palmetto Park, and we walked that park to see the dilapidatedness of Palmetto Park. And I think that's what legislation is all about, because you all have a fiduciary right to this county and to every park in this county. And Palmetto, since Hurricane Sandy, I know the county got a lot of money from FEMA for these different parks and bulkhead that was destroyed by the hurricane. But the one in Freeport seems to be a forgettable park. And this can't happen. Because when I went and I look at Nickerson, Cedarhurst, Lawrence, Robert Morley, Calico Park over here, I don't see the same destruction. I don't see the same dilapidatedness. Bathrooms then is from the 1950s, look like. And Steve took some pictures, I don't know if he shared it with you all, but I'm calling on both the Democrats, my Democrat friends and my Republican friends in here to do something about Palmetto Park. Because the people of Freeport and the community in Freeport deserve better than what we seen in Palmetto Park. And if you all have any time, you represent Nassau County, you don't represent the district, you represent you taxpayers of Nassau County, take a walk and look at it in the park, where Long Beach Broadwalk got money to fix their broadwalk, and there's a broadwalk, there's a what you call a bulkhead there at Palmetto Park where boats comes in. And I think it's left to run down or what the case may be, and it shouldn't do that because FEMA money came in this county to help restore these parks. And as I said to Steve, we got Congresswoman Rice, we got Schumer and Gillibrand. You all in legislature, you can reach out to these people because the people of Freeport vote for these senators. If Nassau County don't have the money, which I know they don't, ask you federal officials to help fill the bill to fix Calmetta Park. But I'm going to be here constant until we really get Calmetta Park back to where it's supposed to be. Plus, the county is losing money when the people cannot use the park because people go there to rent or to get space for that park. The workers don't even have a computer that then could fill out anything to give one coming in there to get information or to fill out a receipt for those people at Calmetta Park and people surrounding there. So this, I don't just want to come here today, speak about this, and then it just fall on deaf ears. Because believe you me, fellas, the election is coming up. And I'm an old campaigner and I know how to talk politics. We have to get Calmetta Park. Look, I know Steve already promised what he's going to do. He already called the Parks Commissioner. I told him he was lucky to get an answer because normally you don't get a recall from Brian. So he got that far. And I think some stuff is beginning to happen, but I know Steve will know that there. Because the carpet in the building that was soaked from Hurricane Sandy was never taken up. And the two sisters who's working there, one already is getting sick from the mold in Calmetta Park in the building. And every time this girl sneezes, blood come out her nose or something. And the other sister is in there. I went in there for 5 minutes and my bloody skin started itching me. So this is something has to be taken care of. Nothing was done since that park was compromised by Hurricane Sandy. And we want parks like Robert Morley, Lawrence, Cedarhurst, Nickerson. A matter of fact, Nickerson Beach, then we built all the cabanas at Nickerson Beach. So I know some of the money for Calmetta Park went into Nickerson Beach. So let us fix Calmetta Park. I'm going to be back here every legislative session till I can hear something, ladies and gentlemen. The surrounding area there, Freeport and Merrick and other places, other people that bring the children to that park. And then what is missing, every entrance to a park has a big sign, the do's and don'ts.
Sorry, your time is expired.
There's nothing there. But I could speak for 10 months on this bloody issue. All right? But I want to thank you, Steve. I give you kudos again because I call you and you respond. All right? Thank you, my friend.
I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it, because obviously passionate members of our community serve as our eyes and ears. We can't be everywhere at the same time. And so the fact that you called and alerted me to problems that were going on in Calmetta Park, it gave us the opportunity to be able to get in contact with the Parks Commissioner. We had the maintenance supervisor down there, as you recall, when we met.
Right.
We also had the park supervisor there as well. So there are a number of issues that you brought up that were maintenance issues, which we can fix right away and are in the process of trying to fix right away. There are some capital issues, obviously they're going to take a little bit longer to address.
You're right, the roof.
Yep, the roof, the bricks, there's a number of issues that we went through, but I want to thank you for taking the time to bring me up to speed and for reaching out, because you're doing a great public service by doing so.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, legislator.
Senator Birnbaum?
Yeah, thank you so much for informing us about this issue, because I'm not familiar with that park, and just to hear that there are problems like that really greatly troubles me that the Nassau County Parks Department is neglecting a park. And I also have a Nassau County facility in my district. It's called the Saddle Rock Grist Mill that has been closed, shuttered closed since Hurricane Sandy. And it's been neglected, and my constituents feel the same way, that this should not go on, that we have to improve the gems of our communities. We have to protect our parks, our museums, and I'd really like to see us start working on these issues. Thanks.
All right,
The
thank you.
reason I come because I have something every year, a street fair, something Caribbean Heritage Month. I would like to use that park, but where it's concerned now, I would think of having guests come to Covina Park at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This concludes the legislative meeting, which is in recess. We're going to take a 5-minute break before rules. Thank you.
He is a danger boy.